Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Fastamai, good evening. Welcome to the final update of the week, where over the next half hour we'll bring you up to date with some of today's main news stories. And today that includes the response of a Manx charity to Liverpool John Lennon Airport closing a patient quiet room it funded. Also, the first interview with the new chair of the Isle of Man's meat plant. A warning: the Isle of Man is not immune from the threat of modern day slavery, and some of the signs you should be looking out for. And also why you might spot hundreds of best of British cars over here this weekend. All that, plus we'll keep an eye on what's happening on the roads as you head home this evening, and if you're looking to go further afield as well. And if you'd like to get in touch, you can text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. First, though, let's join Siobhan for the latest news headlines.
A Manx charity says it's devastated by claims Liverpool John Lennon Airport will be closing a patient quiet room it funded. Manx Breast Cancer Support Group says it's put more than £15,000 into the service, which over 12,000 patients use each year. A spokesperson for Liverpool John Lennon Airport told Manx Radio they are in discussions and remain committed to providing a quiet room for cancer patients at the airport. Peel Commissioner's application to develop the Marine Parade site in Principle has been approved at appeal. The facilities would be built on the current tennis courts, which the local authority said were underused and could be better located elsewhere. Government needs to put its money where its mouth is and look at funding affordable housing on the Isle of Man. That's the view of the leader of the Liberal Vannin Party. He was one of a number of people invited to give evidence to the Youth Select Committee yesterday. And the steam packet company's flagship vessel Manxman is to start sailing to Liverpool from November this year. The date has been announced as part of a response to a Tynwald written question. Treasury Minister Alex Allinson says the Manxman is currently scheduled to sail to the Merseyside port on Saturday the 9th of November, arriving at 12:15. Further afield, a top Hezbollah commander has reportedly been killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut, according to the Reuters news agency. Health officials in Lebanon say 8 people are dead and 59 are wounded. Lawyers representing 37 women accusing former Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed of sexual assault say he was a monster. 5 of the women say they were raped. And South West Police say 4 people have been arrested in a prison over concerns about staff conduct. The force says the arrests follow reports of a series of incidents at privately run HMP Park in Bridgend. They're your headlines. I'll have your news at 6.
Thank you very much indeed, Siobhan. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Dry, variable and at times large amounts of cloud this evening and overnight. There'll be light to moderate locally fresh winds, north-northeast winds, and a minimum temperature of around 12 Celsius. Tomorrow will be dry with sunny intervals. Again, a moderate to fresh northeast wind. Top temperatures tomorrow of 19, so pretty good really. And then Sunday, there's a risk of the odd shower overnight into Sunday, but the rest of the day should be generally dry and bright. Still quite breezy though, and highest temperatures on Sunday of around 18. Sunset this evening will be at 7:21. Sunrise tomorrow morning, 3 minutes past 7.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown or at Broadway, Douglas, or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
Ambitions Recruitment Consultants, covering all business sectors in the Isle of Man. Register online or email your CV to info@ambitions.co.im or ring 614 841. Ambitions, for all your recruitment needs, however big or small.
We all need peace of mind. That's where Peace of Mind Manx Will Writing Services can help you. From just £149 plus VAT. Call 671 001 or go to peaceofmind.co.im.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
You're listening to Update on Manx Radio. It's just gone 4.5 minutes past 5. Now, as we just heard in the news headlines, a Manx charity says it's devastated by claims that Liverpool John Lennon Airport will be closing a patient quiet room that it funded. The Manx Breast Cancer Support Group says it's put more than £15,000 into this service, which over 12,000 patients use every year. And it's claiming the airport is set to move its Aspire lounge upstairs, and so the quiet room is to close without further discussion. Chair of the charity, Julie Stokes, has been talking to Siobhan Fletcher.
Well, yesterday we found out that the room was going and we were going to be offered 4 seats in their new Aspire lounge. Anybody that's been to the patient quiet room knows that it's upstairs. It's just off from the duty free. They're now going to change the Frankie and Benny's into a larger Aspire lounge, and they're going to need that space of the prayer room and the patient quiet room for them to enable them to do that. And they offered us 4 seats in the corner.
And so obviously that is not equal to the provision that's there at the moment. Understandably
Absolutely
so.
not.
You know, the group must be very annoyed at this. Have you been able to air your grievances with them?
I've spoken to Liverpool Airport this morning. I'd just like to add that, our patients go over there. They have procedures, they have treatments, they have chemotherapies, they have all sorts of things. Coming back, they've usually got a long wait until the evening flight back to the island. So they go to the patient quiet room. We have the recliners and stuff for them to sit. They can go there, they can sit there and take it easy and wait till their flight is called. That can't be done on 4 chairs in the corner of an Aspire lounge. People who are using patient transfer will not want to go into that kind of area. I'm very sure the people that pay to go into the Aspire lounge would not really want to see people who are as ill as some of our patients are.
At the core then, what would your message be to the airport?
We have asked, can we have another space? We have a licence to use this space. They didn't even have the decency to come to us and tell us that they were no longer going to offer us a space. But no, as of yet, we've had no offer of any additional space, and we've been told it's going to close imminently.
And so, that was my next question. So, for patients listening who might be worried about this, is this a fairly immediate thing that might be happening?
We don't know. I've asked them to clarify and tell us exactly when they will be closing the room. And I've asked them, and I've pleaded with them to find us some space. I'm still waiting to hear back. Could I also just add to that, Siobhan, that Manx Care are totally supportive, of the charity in this, as is, DHSC. And I've had so many calls today from MHKs and all sorts of people. I'd like to thank everybody so much for their support with this. But I do think we really need to keep on at it and make sure that we come out of this with a decent result.
That's Chair of the Manx Breast Cancer Support Group, Julie Stokes, talking to Siobhan there. In the past hour, we have heard back from the Liverpool John Lennon Airport. They've told us that we are in discussions with the Manx Breast Cancer Support Group and remain committed to providing a quiet room for cancer patients at the airport. They go on to say changes are currently being made to the terminal to improve the customer experience, which includes relocating the existing facility. You can find out more about that at manxradio.com. It's coming up to 8 minutes past 5. Now, as we heard on yesterday's programme, substantial changes to the board of the Isle of Man's meat plant have been made with immediate effect. The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture says it follows months of review and consideration with the aim of stabilising operations and production certainty for farmers, while also, they say, enhancing food security over here. Well, the newly appointed chair of the board is Damien Corcoran, who first explains some of the changes to the board membership.
Well, we've been able to appoint a team of experts, and one of the formative members is Dr. Jonathan Burney, who wrote the Burney report from 2 years ago, along with Philip Burney, who was also part of writing that report. And we have Rob Tier as well, who brings local knowledge and very much the butcher's perspective. And we've also got Andrew McKeown as well, who is a farmer and a haulier on the island who's got good working knowledge of the meat plant.
And you're coming in as the new chair of the board. What's your background then?
So I'm from the Isle of Man, born, raised, educated here, and then left the island to join the army. So I've got a background in professional leadership. After I left the army, I started working in food retail, and that's the element that's most relevant to chairing the board at the Isle of Man Meat Company. So I've worked for large retailers such as Aldi and Sainsbury's and more recently Whole Foods Market, Amazon. It's given me the experience of leading large teams and taking those teams through complex change processes. So I think all of those things equip me well to chair the board.
And complex change processes, I mean, it's no secret that the meat plant's had some struggles in recent months and recent years. We've had some shake-ups there, you know, in the last couple of years. It's been very much at the fore and it's been a big point of conversation. We hear here that the board's been focused on governance of the company over the past year, technical maintenance and operational policies and procedures. So what's the new board going to bring that furthers any of that's already been happening?
So I'm aware of the recent and historic media coverage. I'd say that I'm really here to look forward rather than looking back. And in doing so, my intention in the coming days and weeks is to engage with our stakeholders. So to talk with our farmers, our butchers, our retailers and all of the team that work within the abattoir itself. For me, I'm very much in listening mode at the moment before we decide exactly what course of action it is that we're going to take.
That's the newly appointed chair of the Isle of Man's meat plant, Damien Corcoran, speaking to Siobhan there. 5:10. The Isle of Man must continue to build relationships with the new Labour government in the United Kingdom. It's the view of the Department for Enterprise, which says misconceptions about the island still exist. Speaking on Man in Line this lunchtime, Chief Officer Mark Lewin and Minister Tim Johnston said attendance at upcoming party conferences is just one way of addressing such misconceptions.
There's already extensive outreach both at a political level but also at an officer level. We have lots of contact over a wide range of topics of mutual interest and areas that we wish to progress. Clearly, when any new administration arrives and they have a set of things they want to pursue, you know, we're interested in that. We'll continue to watch. Sometimes they don't always pan out like that, so it is still early
I remember
days
when Tony Blair got in, was it the Andrews report that that lasted a couple of years and really didn't go anywhere, did it? They were expecting sort of millions hidden away in suitcases here, there and everywhere, and nothing really happened last time.
That's right, and sometimes that is about exposing the evidence. Let's get underneath the covers of what perhaps there is a perception. Let's get into the detail, and that's what I think what happened then is when they looked at it in detail. Some of the perceptions just weren't borne out by evidence. We are a very responsible partner internationally. We work hard at that. We work hard with partners around the world, UK included. But I know there's a lot of commitment to work with the new administration. There's, the conference is just about to start, and obviously the chief's there. I think, Minister, you're going next week.
I'm going to the Conservative Party conference as well, because again, we have to make sure that we're keeping close relations with our colleagues in Westminster. We have to work hard because unfortunately there are sometimes misconceptions about what we do, and therefore we have to make sure we're working hard to constantly explain who we are, what we're doing, and the high standards that we work to. There's always, whether Labour or Conservative, there are always people who champion the island and understand us, but there are always those who maybe don't understand. And so it's important that we engage and we have those conversations and we keep those relations going.
Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston and Chief Officer Mark Lewin. 5:12. Let's turn our attention to business with Ramsey Crookall now. And businesses on the Isle of Man are being encouraged to take up an invaluable opportunity to attend Cyber Isle 2024 next month. Now, this is an annual event, and it's said that this will give people the chance to hear from industry experts from across the British Isles and also discuss a range of critical cyber threats. It's especially aimed at those working for small to medium-sized enterprises, which are most at risk. There'll be key speakers from various companies sharing their insights on the growing threats that businesses may face. So it's taking place on the 10th of October at the Comus Hotel. You can find out more and as well how to get tickets at manxradio.com. Now, Ramsey Crookall bring us the stock market report, which this evening tells us that UK and European markets moved lower as investors digested a slew of central bank rate decisions this week and their impact on the global economy. Wall Street stocks were in the red following early yesterday rallying. Spot gold prices hit a record high as a weak dollar, expectations of more US interest rate cuts, and those tensions in the Middle East more than offset muted physical demand in Asia. And oil prices eased but were on track to register gains for a second straight week following a large cut in those US interest rates and declining global stockpiles. Looking at the commodities then, gold stands up 0.97% at $2,611. Brent off 0.29% at $74.68. And at the close, the FTSE 100 was trading off 1.2 at 8,228. And a short time ago, the Dow Jones was off 0.3% at 41,897. And the Nasdaq was off 0.95% at 17,842.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So all looking good down at the airport this evening, and at the steam packet, the Manxman is due in a little bit later than normal. It's going to get into Douglas from Heysham at 7:15, so it's not leaving again until 9:10, expected to get over to England just before 1 a.m. No reports of any real issues on the roads tonight, but just something to be aware of this weekend. They have got the Isle of Man Festival of Motoring taking place, so there will be some road closures. You can find the full list at manxradio.com. But tomorrow a section of Douglas Prom will be closed between the kiosk and the War Memorial. That'll be from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. There will be some other closures on Sunday. And just something to look ahead to from Monday, there's resurfacing work taking place in Braddon. So for the next 3 weeks, a stretch of the Braddon Road will be one way from the Ballafletcher roundabout to the Nobles Hospital roundabout. So that should be fun.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Quayside. It is 16 and a half minutes past 5. The Isle of Man is not immune to the issues of exploitation and modern slavery. The One World Centre, which has launched a new campaign, is urging everyone to be vigilant to the issues. Coordinator Wendy Shimon says specific legislation for the island would be beneficial in assessing the scale of the problem.
It's interesting because we don't actually have a Modern Slavery Act. We don't have the legislation here on the Isle of Man. And that was one of the reasons that we brought the consultant over to give a talk to the general public and to Tynwald a couple of years ago. So although we know anecdotally that there have been various issues, people have been prosecuted under different legislation, so it's very hard to sort of put a number on it because we don't have that all-encompassing Modern Slavery Act legislation in place. But we are aware that there have been all sorts of different issues here. I mean, we shouldn't be complacent. We're a small island. We all think it's safe here and it's a lovely place to be, but it doesn't mean that we're immune to things like modern slavery happening on our doorstep. There are some sort of clues, particularly where young people are concerned. If you are aware of a young person who suddenly seems to have some money, that don't know where that's come from, or they're suddenly doing a lot of travelling to places that you think is a bit odd. So there's telltale signs like that. Somebody will see someone who's perhaps vulnerable and just sees them as a good route to, could you just do me this favour? And before you know it, they're doing a lot of favours. They don't really know what they're doing. They're just taking something to somebody, and before you know it, they're beholden to somebody, and then they are under the sort of caution that, well, if you tell anyone, there'll be trouble. I was at the government conference this Wednesday as well, and it was very much on people's mind there as well that, we should not be complacent. These things do happen in communities everywhere. So it definitely, and again, the poster campaign is a way of putting that in people's mind.
That is Wendy Shimon from the One World Centre, another subject you can find out more about at manxradio.com. Now, a few minutes ago, we were talking about the patient quiet room at the Liverpool John Lennon Airport, and we heard from the chair of the Manx Breast Cancer Support Group, Julie Stokes, who understandably was very upset at claims that Liverpool John Lennon Airport was going to close the quiet room. I've literally, in the past couple of minutes, just had a message from the DOI Minister, Tim Crookall, who says he's been copied into an email from the airport director on the Isle of Man regarding the waiting room lounge. Mr Cobb has spoken to Liverpool Airport today. They are not, says Mr Crookall, closing the patient's quiet lounge, but it will be moved at some stage. Liverpool Airport say they understand the importance and value of the area to our travelling patients. So that's some breaking news there from the DOI Minister, Tim Crookall. It is 19 minutes past 5. Scrapping efforts to preserve the Isle of Man status as a UNESCO biosphere would be short-sighted. It's a view of the Environment, Food and Agriculture Minister, who says she remains dedicated to leveraging the status. Claire Barber says the budget for biosphere work is very modest and shouldn't be targeted as part of a government drive to find £10 million worth of savings.
I think that would be very short-sighted, and certainly, we've recently had a recruitment process around chair, and that's ongoing at the minute. And having seen the applications that came in, the majority of those were actually from people who've got a really significant role within the business community, who understand our economy, who understand the opportunities, and absolutely see this as an opportunity. And they feel it's something that really it's about that balance. From my perspective, I would agree. I think that when we talk to people in the tourism sector, when we talk to people in the business sector, I think sometimes they recognise actually just what a prestigious award this is, and I think it really can't be overstated, but also recognise the opportunities that come with the responsibility. And I think it's trying to piece all of those parts together, making sure that we don't overstep, because we recognise this is a designation that's given to us, and we're simply guardians of it, and I'm only here for a period of time, but also recognising that actually when people from outside see UNESCO status put against something, whether that be World Heritage status or whether that be Biosphere Reserve status, there's a significant importance rightly placed on that. And actually that's something that when people come, they're excited about, and they understand, perhaps in a way that maybe we take for granted sometimes. And I think that's often the way with a lot of things. When you're in something every day and just think, well, it's just it's where I live, it's everything about my home. But actually when you piece together the language, the culture, the dancing, the music, alongside the nature, and we've got quite a vibrant nature. Where else have you got four-horned sheep, sometimes even six-horned, tailless cats, and vegetarian sharks, all around our shores and in our lands? But celebrating all that, I think, is so important, and it all comes together, because when you get those bits right, as I said at the start, economy comes alongside.
That's the Environment Minister, Claire Barber. It is 21 and a half minutes past 5. It's obviously Friday. We've got the Friday Sport preview coming up very shortly, but Rob joins us now just to give us a preview of the preview.
Indeed, fast am I. Well, first tonight, the top two and only remaining unbeaten sides in the Canada Life Men's Premier League will face off this weekend as part of the latest Isle of Man football fixtures. Defending champions Ayr United, with 3 wins from 3, travel to last season's runners-up Peel on Saturday, with both out to preserve their perfect starts to the 24-25 campaign. You can see the schedule for all this weekend's fixtures at manxradio.com. In rugby, an action-packed weekend awaits for the island, including the opening game of the new season for Vagabonds ladies. They're starting life in the women's NC2 North-South division with a trip to Leigh on Saturday. The Manx side have won 7 of the 14 meetings between the teams to date. Elsewhere, Vagabonds men have a tough task at home in the county's 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire tomorrow at 1pm as they welcome leaders Garstang to Ballafletcher, with Vaggers hoping to shake off 2 losses in their opening 2 matches. Also looking to rectify back-to-back defeats at Douglas in Regional 2 North West. They're at Eccles at 2pm on Saturday. And elsewhere, there's an intriguing opening tie to this season's Manx Shield competition at 2:15pm on Saturday at Ballacillia Park as Southern Nomads host champions Ramsey. And in hockey, a second intra-club derby in the Premier League in as many weeks forms part of Game Week 3 of the 2024 mixed season tomorrow. You can see the full programme of Saturday's hockey fixtures on our website.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob. And he will be here very shortly from 5:30 with a lot more sports news. That was a technical term, Rob. Did you like it?
I did like it. Yeah. Excellent work.
Now, I mentioned the Festival of Motoring that is happening this weekend. I'll go through some of the road closures in just a moment. But it returned yesterday with around 350 Best of British cars expected on the island over the weekend. You might have seen them when you're out and about. It's the 4th year of the event, and the organiser Bob Coles says it always gets a great reaction from onlookers and participants as well.
We try to change the theme every year. This year is the Best of British, so you're going to see the biggest gathering of British classic and sports cars ever seen on the Isle of Man. Friday they can come to Derby at the Isle of Man Motor Museum and see all the cars there, and they can go over and watch them enjoying their track sessions on the circuit. Saturday down on Loch Promenade we've got the big car display, so that'll be 360 we reckon British classic and sports cars on the island, on Loch Promenade on Saturday, and Sunday the TT Grandstand. The motorcade departs the grandstand at 10 o'clock and makes its way all the way around to Ramsey, Morag Promenade, to get there about 11 and spend some time there.
Where are all these cars coming from? Are people coming from overseas?
They're coming from England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, and we're pleased that the Manx Classic Car Club and some local enthusiasts do join us. We have about 320 cars coming over from on the ferries, and then we'll be joined on Saturday on Loch Promenade by approximately 50 local cars, British cars as well. So
that motorcade, as you mentioned, going over the mountain, that's such a beautiful stretch of road. So people who do come over and bring their classic cars over for the event, what do they make of the island and the scenery as well?
I'm not just saying that we were blown away in the first year. The response we got. People come to us, and I never forget, a guy came up to me and said, I would never have come to the Isle of Man if it wasn't for this event, but I'm definitely coming back. It's fantastic. They love it. They love the roads. They love the motoring heritage. I think the whole thing works hand in hand.
That is Bob Cole from the Isle of Man Festival of Motoring talking to Lewis. So these road closures, the Slock has been shut today, but that's reopened now. Tomorrow, a section of the Douglas Prom Walkway is closed between the kiosk and the War Memorial. That's from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. And on Sunday, Glen Crutchery Road will be closed southbound between Greenfield Road and St Ninian's traffic lights. That's from 9 until 11. Morag Park in Ramsey will be closed from 9 until 4:30. And then the Mountain Road will be closed from Barrule Park Ramsey to Cregnabar between 12 noon and 5 p.m. So that is all from Update pretty much this evening. I just want to remind you of the main news that we've been talking about today. You might have heard at the start of the programme we were talking about the quiet room at the Liverpool John Lennon Airport. I don't know why I added the Saint in there, but anyway. There was claims that the quiet room was going to be closed, and the Manx Breast Cancer Support Group, which funded that room, was understandably very concerned about that. We heard from the chair, Julie Stokes, a little bit earlier. But in the past few minutes, we have heard from the DOI Minister, Tim Crookall. He says he has spoken this afternoon to the airport director, Gary Cobb, the Isle of Man's airport director, who has spoken to Liverpool Airport today, and they can say they are not closing the Patients' Quiet Lounge, but it will be moved at some stage. They have reiterated that they understand the importance and the value of this area to travelling patients from the Isle of Man. So thank you very much indeed for your company on Update this evening. As ever, if you'd like to listen back to any of these stories, you can listen to all Update programmes as a podcast at manxradio.com. We've also got much more on all today's stories on the website as well. Coming up next, it is the Friday Sport Preview with Rob. So a full rundown of all the sports action that's happening around the Isle of Man this weekend. And there is always so much happening. So Rob will take you through all of that. Then we've got Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley from 6 p.m. Jumping in
You'll
with...
be happy, roadworthy and safe when you...
That's novel. Jumping in with Howard Kane and Chris from 9. Nick Holt will get you in the weekend mood with the 90s playlist from 10. So whatever you're doing this weekend, have a great one. Do get out there and enjoy the sunshine while it's still here. And we look forward to seeing you again on Monday from 5. So do join us then.